Hey there, guys. I am so pumped. If you don't know, my homie, this lady, Christine Blubaugh, if you don't know about her, one, you must. She is a magical message maker, copywriter. I would say funnels, websites. Your jam is the About Me page and everything else, right?
Yeah,
But anyway,
totally.
I'm going to let her talk in a second. This is Rachel Feldman. You are here, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're watching this on our business page. We sat there, right, Christine, and we said, okay, let's empower coaches to know how you actually get seen, known as an expert, and hired. So we are going to pull you into our home and jam on nailing down that key message. Also getting really comfortable and understanding why your messaging is going to trump just one individual platform. When you nail down that message, when you know your ideal client, also known as ICA, the words will come. And that's why copywriter and past health coach, now working for peeps like us and helping us to get seen and known as an expert. Here is Christine Blubaugh, also known, before I let you talk, lady, I call her B Money because the money is in the words that she writes. All right, girl. Tell
Thanks,
everyone
Rach.
about you.
Thank you, Rachel. So excited to be here. Yeah, so like you said, I'm a copywriter. I started an online business actually as a health coach, and that's how I came into the world of online marketing. And then in 2016, I switched my business to copywriting to kind of better utilize my skills and knowledge and everything. And so I've been doing that for the last 4 years, helping people basically sell out their launches and sign more clients with words, like you said. And the money really is in the words. And, my approach is all about helping people just really build connections with their audience through their messaging so that when it comes to selling, it just kind of takes care of itself. It doesn't feel like you're forcing. People get what you do, who you do it for, and why they would or would not want to work with you. And that when you are able to do that, that is when people just kind of start to come and they see the value of your work. Like you said, they see you as an expert, and then they're like ready to jump into your programs, your services, and things like that.
I love that you just said that. And even just in that one powerhouse statement, I think a lot of coaches can understand, and what I know is pivotal is for coaches to understand that their pre-launch for a launch or getting seen and getting known as an expert isn't just about this perfect landing page. It is what we say, what comes out of our mouth, what we stand for, our brand message, the one that really helps somebody to say, oh, wow, I'm consistently seeing this person talk about XYZ. And so it's not a shocker when you have a free offer or paid. So guys, even before we dive into the crux of this training, what you can expect and what we will be diving into is not only understanding some essential steps. Many of you might be saying, thank goodness, guys, because I don't even understand niche, or I've been in coaching for 9 years and I'm so inspired now to get off the sidelines and do what I need to do. Or maybe you have gone through every course. And Christine and I hear this all the time. You hired every coach, but you're still not getting it. So let's just jump in. Christine, okay. Let's even for those coaches where this is still really a struggle, new coach or coach up leveling, switching niches, just tell us the basics of why the difference between niche and message.
Okay. So, okay. I'm going to start with kind of like the kind of like the mistake that people make and why we're talking about this in the first place. So the reason why you may have taken all the courses or worked with all the coaches or you've been trying all the things, maybe you're just, still working off of like free downloads and blog posts and stuff online. And the reason that stuff isn't working is that a lot of times people will be asking you or advising you to do things that are more like tactics, like grow your Instagram following or create this graphic or write some blog posts. And all of those things can be really effective and can be helpful in your business. However, all of those things, in order for them to be helpful and effective, they have to be based off of your message. Like if you don't have sort of like the foundational piece put together and completely solidified, all those strategies and tactics that you're trying, email marketing, Instagram, blogging, all that stuff, it's going to fall flat and you're not going to get anywhere because you're just sort of guessing, you're just sort of pulling random stuff out. You don't have this thing, like Rachel said, like what you're known for, who you help and all of those things. So the way you want to start with this, like your niche is basically just the problem that you solve and the person that you solve that problem for. That's it. So
don't complicate it.
No,
and guys, when Christine is really saying this, please listen, because I hear a lot of coaches that say things like, well, I did this course, I went through this. And one thing that Christine and I always agree on, this is a daily reprieve. This is constantly testing. And that's why and then we're going to say exactly what your bold line of message is. It's testing constantly to know the problem. What are their problem? What are their desires? What really is their motivating wake up problem? Because that's different. And we're just talking about the basics of this because the basics often get overlooked. So we do a Facebook ad strategy, all these list builders without saying, what are the problems? What is my ideal client intentionally? This is our new keyword, intentionally searching for on Google, on YouTube, on Pinterest, where there's search engines. And so please listen and don't complicate it. So would you say that from the message, what is like basic step 2 that I know you teach, but it is in the repetition that we have to hear it to dominate?
Yeah, absolutely. So once you are you have an understanding of like what that main problem is and who you solve that problem for, the next step is you want to like start to really think about that person that you're solving the problem for. So let me give you like just an example. So you're a health coach and the problem that your people have is that they are struggling with yo-yo dieting. They want to lose weight. Just a really simple example. And the people that you help with that are working professional women, like in their 30s. So now you have that basic understanding. Now you want to look at that person. So you have this like working professional woman in her 30s. She's like constantly trying like fad diets. Her weight is up and down. What is actually going on with that person? This is where you start to dive into the thoughts, feelings, and beliefs of that person. We call them psychographics in the marketing world. And
Christine, can I just clarify a term? Because what I see as a huge problem these days is we have the digital marketing terms, the business coach terms, the copywriting as the layman, like how I would say the Chris Kressler versus the Josh Axe, who just is they're both awesome. Would you say this is what we call the avatar work in our mind? Okay.
Totally.
So
yeah. If you hear like avatar, ideal client avatar, that's kind of what we're diving into right now. So the first part, I'm going to tell you about 3 things that you need in your message to have it be super solid and clear. The first one is your ideal client avatar. It's just understanding the inner workings and the situations that your perfect fit client is experiencing. And I always say perfect fit client, because the reality is you could help a lot of different people. And this is something a lot of people, especially new to online business, new to coaching, get hung up on, is like, well, I don't want to like exclude people. Yes, you do. I'm just going to tell you, you do not want to work with everyone because they will be a pain in your ass. And so you want the people who are going to be perfect fit, who are going to get really good results. They're going to do the work. They're going to be a joy to work with. And that is not everyone.
Well, and I think even because I know that I get a lot of questions, and I also get a lot of what I call I'm so angry, I'm going to curse XYZ, because of the frustration part. So I want to just say this in a very simple line in the health coach brain, and just say tell me if you agree with it. It's that many stay stuck on just thinking about the niche, and they don't dive into the problems. And so it's not just saying over and over, yo-yo. I work with women who are frustrated with yo-yo time. It's not just the elevator pitch.
That's like the high level, this is the problem that you solve. Then what we're talking about now, like really getting to know that ideal client, this is where we're zooming in. We're looking at their life. I always say, when I get on a call with a new copywriting client, I always say, if we had a hidden camera following your ideal client around for a day, what would we see? What would they be experiencing?
That's brilliant.
What expressions, what would they be feeling? Like, if we could see that, fly on the wall, what would we see? We want to be getting that specific. We want to know that, like, your 30-something working professional woman is up in the morning. She's trying to zip up her pencil skirt and it won't zip because she fell off the wagon with that diet she was trying and she gained 5 pounds. And then she's looking in the mirror. What is she saying to herself? What is that self-talk that she's having as she's going through that? Then, like, she goes to work, and what's happening at work? How is she feeling when she walks into the meeting and everyone turns to look at her? Like, those are the things we want to know, what's going on inside their heads. So this is deeper than niche. This is like, see, you got the diagram.
I was like,
this is deeper than niche. This is like, you're getting to know that person better than they know themselves.
You're in her subconscious. You're in her shoes. And like, even as you were talking, when you were saying yo-yo dieting, 30 years old, I instantly just saw a person I know, and I'm thinking, she's zipping up the pencil skirt. How does she feel? Is it the body shaming? Is she like, you're so fat, girl? But she's saying this subconsciously. So she's like, oh my God, I hate myself. I knew I shouldn't have eaten that Chinese food last night with my girlfriends. I've been feeling, and really playing out her life.
Yes. Okay. Yes. This is exactly it. So this is like the first part of this 3-part messaging thing that I'm telling you about, is these like details about your ideal client. Don't be afraid to get really specific like this, because what will happen is, even if someone doesn't fully resonate with, like, I shouldn't have eaten that Chinese food last night and whatever, like, you're going to have like this core small group of people that you're speaking to. And then the people on the periphery of that, who maybe aren't the exact person, but there's enough similarity that they're still going to resonate with what you're saying, and you're still going to attract those people. And that's really what you want to think of. Like, your niche is here. You're talking to this small group of people, and then these people on the periphery are going to still be interested. And then as you grow and you speak to more people, that circle is going to get bigger and bigger. It's a lot easier to build a business from here out than it is to start out here with this huge group and then try to work your way in. You're going to have a lot more success if you start small with a small group of people and just speak to them. So that's the first thing. The next thing is, you need to be really clear on what it is that you're actually selling. Like, what is your offer? What is your program or your service or whatever it is? And like, how does that solve the problem for your person? Like, that is the purpose of what you're selling. Like, this person, they have a problem, they want to have this other reality. your thing that you're selling is the thing that gets them from point A to point B. And you need to be able to say, this is how my detox, my coaching program, my retreat is going to help you get from this stuck point that you're at right now to this desired future. I always say, like, they're stuck on Struggle Island and you want to get them to like the tropical paradise, and your offer is like the bridge that's going to get them across there. And you need to be able to say, this is how we do that. This is, this is how you're going to go from this yo-yo dieting and not fitting in the work clothes you bought 2 years ago to feeling healthy and confident in your body, and knowing that, like, you know exactly what to eat to have energy all day, to feel really confident when you walk into that boardroom. You know, you're describing how people, like, what's in it for them, essentially. We call these benefits. The benefits of your offer, the transformation that you're
promise
to experience. Yes, the promise. That is the second essential piece of your message.
The one thing that I know a lot of coaches hear when we're in right away, when you said offer, and then we're going to jump to number 3, so we can make sure that we give you the training takeaway that you guys desire and deserve, is that it is essential to know the problem. And I see a lot of coaches jumping over what yes, I would call old schoolers like us who went to school 10 years ago. We really dove into this because there wasn't a huge dependency on social media as much, platforms, Facebook ads, because they weren't where they are now in 2020. So a lot of what we were taught was understanding the problem. Christine is saying this in keywords that we use a lot in digital marketing, but we would just like, oh my goodness, what are the problems? And we would write down 100 problems, all this written down in documents on boards, to be thinking about that person constantly. And then we would say, what do I need to develop? A list builder, my social media, my offers. How do they take that person to where they need to be?
Yeah.
Their desires, their pleasures, and what they want. And then and how do these offers, this live, this challenge, this anything that you're doing, give them what they really desire, and the promise of each of these. So as you're sitting there and feeling maybe frustrated, or saying, now it's time for me to up the ante, I want to now up level, I want to have bigger launches, better conversions, think of just those 3 Ps. It's very simple, or use the same verbiage that Christine has used in that template. But most important, do it. Don't take the easier road, which it is, because this stuff it's hard. It's harder. Don't take the easier road and just set up an evergreen webinar, or do very advanced strategies that are great when you get to like chapter 6, chapter 5, chapter 12, would you agree?
Absolutely. It's sort of like, let's use like the house building analogy, like webinars and Facebook ads, and even like, social media, like Instagram and stuff, like all of those things are like the walls and the shingles and like the finishings of your house. But it's like, you're not going to put that stuff up until you have like laid the foundation. And the stuff that we're talking about right now is that stuff that once you get it down and it's there, like, yes, it will shift and tweak as your business evolves. However, like that stuff is going to inform all these other things that you create, the webinars, the Facebook ads, the social media, so that stuff's actually effective. You know what I mean? Like if you're like, oh, I'm doing all these things and it's just not working, like go back to these beginning like pieces and make sure that that you really get like who you're talking to and like how your stuff helps them. Because if you don't know that, then everything else is just not going to work.
And then Blubaugh, before we even move into the third element, let's just even speak to the new coach or the coach, because I feel like even if somebody's been in the game for 5 or 6 years, and I see this all the time, I'm thinking of this woman who posted the other day in my free group, and she was like, I did all of this. I did the masterminds. I worked with a coach. I took the courses. It's the same as a brand new. What would you say it was missing? Was it not enough testing in the beginning? Because I don't want coaches to do what I see often where they go, well, I'm not going to put anything out there until I know exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a thing. So basically what you do is you start with like a little bit of clarity. You start with some clarity around this messaging. All right. But like the real clarity comes once you start sharing it and getting feedback. So like nothing in business, like the whole purpose of business is to try stuff, see what happens, and then make adjustments. So if you're not trying anything, then you're not getting anywhere because you're not getting the feedback and you can't make adjustments. If you're just like, oh, I want to talk about this, and then you don't talk about it, and then the next week you're like, actually, I want to talk about this. You have absolutely no idea if what you want to talk about is going to be worth anything because you haven't talked about it. So like what you do is you're like, okay, I know that the problem that I solve for my people is helping them get out of the yo-yo dieting thing, whatever. So then you get online and you start talking about it. You start talking about who you think your ideal client is. And then as those people as you start to get, comments, as you start to get people into your programs or whatever, you talk to them, you pay attention to what they're saying about their experience, about what's working for them, about what's not. And then your message becomes more specific and it evolves as you get this feedback from people. But you can't get caught up in like, I need this to be perfect before I share it, because obviously perfection isn't a thing, but like improvement comes from the sharing.
From the showing up. I love it.
Refinement comes from doing, not from thinking about it.
I love that you said that, because I was just having a conversation in my membership the other day about hard data. And we can only pivot, adjust, remessage if we know what worked versus didn't. And I would just say for anyone, before we move on to number 3 and then wrap this up with some, how do we pivot message at times of uncertainty, or even when we see that our ideal client has changed. Perfect example is I started 10 years ago. I was 35. My ideal client and my message had to change because I got older, my children got older, so I wasn't working anymore with that young mom. So I just want to say for you guys, if you, and I know this is going to be a painful thing to hear, but if you have tried everything and it didn't work, the message is broken 100%. And it feels frustrating to go back to the drawing board, but the most successful coaches, the people you admire, that is the part that you don't see behind the scenes. There is a lot of that. Christine's been, we've worked on my launches where I'm like, my mind is blowing up. I'm like, this isn't working.
And also know that like at every level, people need help clarifying their message. Like that's what my people at 6 and 7 figure level hire me for. Because they're like, I have all these ideas and this is what we're, launching. And so I just take all of that and distill it into a really clear message. That's really what I do. So don't feel bad if you're like, oh my gosh, but I've already been at this for so long. I should have this figured out or whatever. Like it's work that you are always doing. You're always kind of refining. And then every time you create a new offer, it's like you have to do it again. So like, just know that at every level, people need help and it's work that you are still going to continue to do.
And just for those of you who also are not as clear on some terms, many of you do hear terms from great leaders like Pete Vargas was sharing this with, the Rise Up Challenge. And he's like, beta test. So this is a term that many of you guys hear. Test your offers. A great one to Google and to listen to is beta test. And there's tons of free information out there on these strategies. So now let's go into your number 3, your core.
So the first thing was know your ideal client really well. Second, know your offer, how it solves the problem. And then the third thing is just your story. So like, how did you come to be doing the work that you do? Why does it matter to you? Why are you passionate about helping people? There's a lot of different stories you can tell, but like everyone sort of will have their sort of core story. I call it your origin story. Some people call it your brand story, of just kind of like how you got from where you were to where you are. It's not your entire life story. It's just like relevant. Like I tell my origin story for my copywriting business starts in 2015. So like, it's not like your whole life. It's just sort of like what's relevant to you getting to the point where you are today doing the work that you're doing. And this is obviously going to be different from everyone, but it's kind of like your own before and after. It's your process. And I think for a lot of people in the health and wellness world, what's awesome is that you might have a story that really mirrors the story of your ideal client, because a lot of people, myself included, get into health and wellness because we've had our own journey with wellness in some way. Yeah. And so just being clear on like, basically your why and the steps that you took to get where you are, and being willing to share that openly. That is how people are going to really resonate with you as a human. You might have heard like the saying that people buy from people, not
products.
Yeah, people buy people, not products. Yeah, exactly. The reason, because you're not going to be the only weight loss coach. You're not going to be the only person doing what you do. So like, your story and the things that are personal to you are what are going to really differentiate you. They're also going to help people connect with you on a human level. And when you have that kind of connection, people will buy from you regardless of what you're selling. They'll just be, because they're bought into you, not just the things that you are putting up for sale.
I want to add to one area of that, because I know I've talked about this a lot. And I know that a lot of coaches either say things like, but that wasn't my story. I want to pick out something exactly that you said that I love, not only your work, but I do believe many copywriters stand for this, and also many leaders. It's people need to know why you do this. So when Christine's saying your story, some of you didn't have a Debbie Downer story, or maybe it wasn't horrible. Or maybe you were motivated because you saw something in your child. You saw something that it was your child or your loved one or your parent, something motivated you to go into the health and wellness industry.
Yep.
And guys, I really encourage you. There's another thing that you can Google. It's called the Hero Journey Timeline. It forces each one of us to look at these really pivotal turning times when we either made a change, when we said, I have to do this. So it's important to have those micro stories, these parts of you where people can relate. And we'll get into we'll do a whole nother podcast on different kinds of stories, because I think this is where many of us fail. We go in too hard with the teaching. We don't show enough behind the scenes. There's all different personalities and hats that we have to wear as digital marketers, not just as coaches, digital marketers. And so please write them down. And we all have a story, and just know that they're not going to just buy your detox. They're buying why you created it. Why are your freebies a little entry door into what it would be like to work with you? So without us getting into building your whole business in 30 minutes and deviating.
There's one thing that I do want to share really quickly. So in my business, I don't have the same story as my ideal client currently. Like, I never struggled with copywriting the way that my ideal clients do. So like when I tell my story, it has nothing to do with, oh my gosh, I had no idea how to write copy. And then like, I learned how, and now everything, like that's not my story at all, but people still resonate with it because I talk about the journey that I went through to build my business. So you just want to find the common threads, even if your story isn't exactly the same. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I know. I think that's imperative, because that goes back to that really to this graph, this little like storyboard per per se, because it's in understanding. And tell me if I'm wrong, Christine, because I think this ties right into the third, and then I'm going to let you riff and roll, is knowing who your ideal client is and testing those messages out also help us to then say, hey, I know I've not struggled as much as people, but this is what my clients tell me. This is struggle one, struggle two. I know that when they're a year into their business, this is what the struggle looks like, and being extremely clear on those elements that you discussed. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you say, like, just for everybody watching, listening, like when you say like test your message, what we're talking about with that is really just saying different stuff, like on social media, in emails, whatever, publicly, and then seeing what people respond to. That's it. That's all testing your messages. So I might say like, oh, like you just can't figure out what to put at the top of your about page. And like I'm not getting any response talking about that. But then if I start talking about how like, oh, you try to tell people what it is that you do and nobody understands you, or they just like smile and like whatever. And then tons of people seem to like resonate with that. Then I know that that's a message that I'm going to go further with. And I'm going to talk about that more and more because my people are flocking when I talk about that.
Similar to the weight loss girl. So it's like, I see a lot of mistakes where a coach, because this is what we think, we just keep saying the same thing. Like, are you sick of yo-yo dieting? Have you not fitting into your pencil skirt? Have you not this? Instead of really testing, hey, did you ever try keto and it failed? Have you ever done Weight Watchers? And really stepping into their habits, their life, the media, the things that are fed that start to cultivate our inner thoughts. Is that
Absolutely.
more of what you're even saying?
Yeah. So you don't want to just say like, are you sick of yo-yo dieting? Yo-yo dieting this, yo-yo dieting that, like that
Dieting.
that work that we talked about a little bit ago about if you had that hidden camera following and you saw what they were doing throughout the day, pulling out little tidbits and like talking about those things. Like you Googled like Weight Watchers 30,000 times and like, but part of you knows that that isn't the answer. Like trying these little things to see like what people respond to. And then the things that people do respond to, doing more of that. But it's like it's sort of a constant thing where you're just talking about different stuff and doing more of what works. That's why
especially because, and I'm seeing this, and I know Christine sees this, where it's not just that you're launching a program or a course or a membership or challenge, or it doesn't free or paid. The foundation of the home gets laid for that message even a month before, because sometimes you don't even know what you're going to offer, but you see that everyone is asking you constantly about carb cycling. Let's just say with this yo-yo diet.
Yeah.
And you're like, it doesn't mean you're making your business, let me say this clearly, doesn't mean you're making your niche, your business, or the pillars, which is what you teach about carb cycling, but you're going to optimize constantly. Hey, do you know about carb cycling? I don't agree with it because, or I tried it and I failed. And then lay those messages and get people to be like, oh my God, I have to see what Rachel's talking about today. And really, really cultivating that before you go full throttle.
Totally. And I love that what you said about like, just because some people are asking you about a certain thing doesn't mean you need to make your whole business about it, but you can talk about it. So if someone is asking you about keto and you love keto, then you can talk about why you love keto. You don't have to teach it necessarily, but you can, maybe it's one of the tools in your tool belt. Or maybe you're like, actually, I think this is harmful to people's health and here's why. Then you talk about that. So you figure out what these like hot button kind of topics are for your people. And then you talk about like your opinions and your ideas related to those things that people are talking about. This is called polarizing content. It's where you start talking about your ideas and your opinions about things, and you're going to really attract some people and sort of repel other people. And that's what you want to be doing in your business. But like, yeah, like Rachel said, these things that people are asking about, like trends that you see, all these things can be worked into your messaging. And it's not like, oh, everybody's talking about this, so I need to make my whole business about this. It's just like, what's your take on it?
It's just like a little, and I will say we'll get to number 3. And then I think even in today, we covered so much of pivoting message if it's not working. And guys, we will be diving into again. But I just want each one of you to think about this. It's not as difficult as we make it. It's very simple to say, what is my ideal client? What is she or he? How are they being affected? Is it media? Is it that they saw a celebrity star who just was doing keto and now is doing raw? Then talk about those areas, because they are buying you. Where you're leading them in the offer, free or paid, is this mini solution in the free to then you're paid, whether it's one-on-one, virtually, it doesn't matter what it is. It's the same awesome template. And then you hire peeps like Christine when you're like this. Okay, so hit us, Christine, with the number 3.
Oh, no, that was number 3. Your story was number 3. So just to refresh you guys, number 1 was know your ideal client. Number 2 was know your offer and the transformation that it provides. And number 3 was really be clear about your own story. So that's like the foundation of your message. And obviously, like the offer stuff is going to change depending on what you're selling. The ideal client can shift some also depending on what you're selling. Like the person for one offer who's perfect might not be the same for this other thing that you sell. So that's something to be aware of. And then your story is going to remain pretty much solid. But like, this is, once you have these things figured out, all the strategies and tactics that you start like implementing are going to they're just going to work so much better. You're going to get so many more leads, so many more people reaching out, asking about your work. So yeah, definitely take the time to get super clear on this.
I think I heard story and right away my brain, because everyone knows I 100% believe it's niche, it's clarity, it's the teaching pillars, it's understanding your person and listening. Clearly, when you said story, my brain was like, and the excitement levels, because I think I just went right over that. So guys, I know you love this woman just like I do, because in that clarity, you will have a cohesive brand message. You'll have a message that speaks to each different person. And that's why if you are in the struggle, or you just want to go geek out watching Christine Blubaugh's Instagram, her IGTV, her stories, they're unbelievable. And they're unbelievable because, and I've always said that too. They're unbelievable because they speak to an element of our problems and their solutions. And that's what creates that conversation. Because somebody says, wow, she is talking about my problem. And then she's also giving me this like really cool value. I'm going to continue to watch her, stalk her, DM her, PM her, just find her in Google and send her an email or make a phone call like Christine. That's how I met you many years ago. Just cold called me and said, I really like what you do. That is how we get seen and known as the expert. So please, a lot of things that you maybe hear that make it a little easier. It will be easier when you nail down this. So with that being said, Blubaugh, tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, so definitely Instagram for sure. I'm at Christine Blubaugh. Come over there, like comment on a post, send me a DM. I love actually connecting with people there and having conversations. So do not be shy or afraid to reach out to me there. I share a lot of like educational content. There's a link to a free masterclass there in my bio that you guys, if you want to learn more about clarifying your message, you can check that out. And then ChristineBlubaugh.com. Those are the main places.
And guys, I just want to thank you guys for watching this. To thank you, Christine. I know this is such, as you and I were talking about even before we recorded, this is such an important part, and there's many different aspects of this. And I know that's why coaches, some are struggling or some are not making the money that they really deserve because there are some missing components in this message.
Yeah. And this can make such a huge difference in the success of your business.
Game changing. All right, guys, you know what time it is. If you have any other questions or you want to see some videos, go to rachelafeldman.com. And actually, totally forgot about it. Christine is on our podcast breaking down all this grand stuff that you guys need. So with that being said, we are going to go. Peace out. Either eat, pee, drink, all those amazing things that we should all do as health coaches. Remember, if you're not pooping daily, of course you're struggling. So make sure that you are up in the self-care. Get the poop going. Add some magnesium. Mago 7 is one of my favorites. Take care of your body, and we will see you guys on the flip side. Bye guys.